Welcome to the Damn Strong podcast. I'm your host, Bree, and I'm a full-time online fitness coach, and my passion is to educate women on all things fitness. I help women just like you step into the power of knowledge and commitment to ultimately live your best and strongest life. In this podcast, we'll talk about being damn strong in our body, mind, and life. I'll be teaching you how to navigate nutrition, strength training, and mindset challenges. So get ready to take some notes because we're building a damn strong life. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Bree, and this is the Damn Strong podcast. And today is going to be a little inspirational, pep in your step kind of episode. Okay. This is 5 things that you need to hear when you're on your fitness journey. This can apply to being at maintenance. It can apply to being in a deficit and a bulk, just living your best life. But these are kind of the 5 things that I've rounded out that I just think that, I don't know, whether all of them hit for you or just one hit for you, they're just 5 things that you need to hear in your fitness journey. So this might be an episode that you kind of back pocket. So if you're ever just feeling down, a little low in motivation or just a little low in feelings, like just good reminders for yourself. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and hop into it. The first one you guys have probably heard me say before in other episodes is sometimes taking a step back is how you're going to move forward. Okay. The analogy I always get is the only way for a rubber band to physically move forward is you have to pull back on it. I think a lot of times we try to white knuckle our way through our goals and we just say, no, there's this weird thing that we do is like when we don't achieve the goals that we want to, we think, oh, if we just make it more intense, that's going to hold me more accountable. I can't count the amount of times, years ago that I would try to eat like 1,200 calories and I wouldn't stick to it. I'm like, you know what? If I'm not going to eat, if I'm going to stick this 1,200 calorie thing, I can't have any carbs. And that wouldn't work. And I would have carbs. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to stick this 1,200 calorie thing, like I can't have any sweets. Like food is only fuel. I can't enjoy food. And I would just like add more and more and more intensity. And it's like, the more intense that I got, the worse that it got. It just like my relationship with food just was a disaster. Right. And so I think a lot of times when it comes to your journey, sometimes you just need to pull back. That might be with your workouts, right? You might just kind of be in this rut with workouts where you just like, I don't know, you're going through the motions. And sometimes all the time, it's okay to go through the motions. There's nothing wrong with that being, hey, you know what, working out, prioritizing movement. Like I don't love it right now, but I know it's good for me. So I'm just going to go through the motions. And sometimes that is a form of pulling back, like having that recognition of, hey, all my workouts don't have to be the most amazing thing I ever experienced. Like it's almost pulling back an expectation, right? And therefore you're just like, it's okay. I'm just going to go through the motions for a few weeks. It could be like, hey, you're burnt out on working out. Maybe let's not work out 4 times a week. Maybe let's go to 3 times a week, or maybe let's even go to 2 and you do 2 full body days. Maybe we just need a little bit of a break. Or that pulling back could be like, maybe you take a break from weightlifting. I've had it with clients where they are just, I don't know, in a way burnt out, and we'll do a few things where like we change up their workouts. Maybe we change up all of the exercises to all exercises they absolutely love. And it's just not doing it for them. I'm like, you know what? Let's just give you a break. Like, why don't you go do some running or Pilates classes or just walk? Like, what if we just took a really good solid 3-week break? You're not going to lose any muscle during that time, right? Like, what if we just took a break? Now, if they're during a deficit, I would probably maybe discourage a little bit from that because it is the strength training that helps to make sure we're losing fat, right? But it might be maybe the break for you is like, maybe you're in a deficit and you're burnt out on weightlifting. You're like, you know what? I'm going to pull back. I'm going to go to maintenance. So that way I'm not in a deficit. I'm not worried about losing muscle, and I'm going to stop training for 3 weeks. I'm just going to give myself a break. A lot of times you taking that break is what sends you forward. Because here's the other thing. If you don't take a break, then you burn yourself out and then you really don't do what you need to do, right? I think we just get on this hamster wheel of like, hey, I can't take a break from working out. And so you actually end up kind of taking a break from working out because you're burning yourself out, right? You're like, oh, I need to work out. I need to work out. And you keep planning on these workouts and you keep missing them because you keep pushing yourself and you actually end up not working out for 3 months versus if you just took a break for 3 weeks, this one had turned into 3 months of inconsistency. Same goes for your nutrition, right? I know I talk about fat loss a lot, and that's because a lot of people are interested in that. That's what a lot of people's goals are. But some of y'all are listening to this right now or have previously listened to my episodes, and you've been in this like fat loss hamster wheel. You think that if you stop trying to lose body fat right now, it makes you a failure, that you're quitting. There is nothing wrong about pausing a current goal and switching to another one. I feel like a lot of people think, well, if I go to maintenance or I'm not in a calorie deficit, I'm going off track. You're not going off track. You're still on track. We're just changing tracks. The train is coming to a divide And it's saying, hey, we can continue on this track where it's going to take you twice as long in your deficit because you're doubly burned out and you're having a really hard time adhering and sticking to your goals. Or we can take this other track of, hey, you pause for 3 months and you chill and you go back to maintenance and you take that break that you need. You pull back a little bit, and you pulling back for those 3 months of just being at maintenance then allows you to come back to a deficit and go full force versus half-assing it for 6 months in a deficit. And then you don't really get anywhere because you're so burned out. So for a lot of us, for a lot of our, and this honestly could apply to so many, there's so much fitness stuff that just applies to like real life. Sometimes it's not about white knuckling it and pushing forward and like this toxic hustle culture that I feel like is just preached, especially like for me and like the entrepreneurial, is that the right, am I saying that right? Space. There's just like this hustle culture. And yes, I agree. I do think there are times where like, you know what, we need to be honest with ourselves and we need to push ourselves. We need to go to the gym. We need to make the right decisions on our nutrition for our goals. But sometimes you're just going at it for so long that you need that break. I would say it's like a psychological fatigue that you have. And I've even talked about this, I think 2 episodes ago on my Q&A, someone asked if I was ever going to do a bulk again. And I expressed, I'm like, yes, potentially, but not for a while because I'm giving myself a break from these cycles of, maintenance, cut, bulk, maintenance, cut, bulk. Like I've done a bulk just a handful of times. And this was definitely my best one by far. But I'm kind of tired of the cycle of always having these goals, which is funny for me to say because I'm a very goal-oriented person, which I guess, to be fair, I am still setting a goal for myself. That's how I kind of operate. Like it's really hard for me to kind of be in limbo with just like living life. And so I have set goals for myself. They're different, right? It's building a healthy lifestyle. It's going for a walk every single day. It's spending time with family. It's prioritizing my fitness. It's still prioritizing protein. Like I've made goals for myself, but I'm pulling back the rubber band because I know that I can't full 100% with all my effort go into another bulk or go into a cut or whatever it is. I'm not looking to do a cut right now, but like go into this next phase of fitness for myself if I don't pull back just a little bit. I'm kind of burning myself out on the cycles. And, I've pushed through a lot of them for a good chunk of time, but I'm just like, I'm finally ready to just be like, hey, like I'm not doing anything. I'm not going for a cut. I'm not going for a bulk. I'm just trying to be strong and live my best life and create a body that's going to support my best life and support my body into my elder years, right? Okay, next one that you need to hear on your fitness journey is your journey gets easier when you're on your own side. No one ever hated themselves into a body they loved, okay? I don't know a single person ever that has hated themselves into, this keyword, a body they love. There are people that have hated themselves into a physique that they thought they wanted, but there's no one that's hated their body into a body that they love, right? And I'm thinking specifically of people who, they get super, super lean or they get really, really skinny. And it's just like, they thought that this life, that's a whole nother conversation, right? Of this, if they just lost last 10 pounds, they just lost 30 pounds, they just got this skinny, they just could fit into a size 2, that would finally bring them happiness. And a lot of people, including myself, have used hatred as like this motivation, right? I didn't get all my workouts in. Well, guess what? You are working out more this week. You ate something you weren't supposed to eat. Well, guess what? I'm going to punish you and we're doing cardio tomorrow. You would do punishment or hate yourselves to get into a body that they loved. There was not one single time that I was ever in my phases of life that I was in a body that I absolutely loved where hate for my body was associated with. The body that I am in now, I love, and it's bringing me so much joy. It's bringing me so much just ableness. And it's giving me my best life right now. And that's all backed up through slowly over time doing stuff because I love my body, doing stuff because I'm on my own side. This really comes down to like, I think this is where this really applies and where you really have to challenge yourself mindset wise is when you guys know I hate using the word fail, but when something doesn't go the way that you want it to go, instead of being hard on yourself of like, I knew it, you never follow through anything, or you can never do this, you can never be consistent, be on your own side. And I think part of being on your own side is being honest with yourself of saying, hey, every single time we try to work out 5 times a week, we can't do it. It doesn't make you a failure, but it does mean that maybe our expectations aren't matching up and we need to win for ourselves. Okay. We're going to dial it back. We were at 5 times a week. We're actually going to dial back even more. You're going to do 3 times a week and we're going to be consistent for 2 months at 3 times a week. And then from there, we're going to do 4 times a week. And you know what? We don't have to work out 5 times a week, right? There's this being on your own side is not just about being this cheerleader, right? It's not about just sugarcoating everything and be like, you're doing a great job, sweetie. When it's like, no, there's actually really struggles that you're dealing with. It's also about being honest with yourself. And so all of that to say, your journey just gets that much easier if you can find a way to be on your side. Probably a really easy way to figure out how you would talk to yourself is how would you talk to your friend? Like if your friend came up to you and was like, oh, I'm really struggling with working out 5 times a week. What would you say to them? Right? You probably would help them be like, okay, well, you're planning out your workouts. Are you structuring it here? Are you, maybe you could do some on the weekends. Maybe you go on before. Like you would talk through all that with a friend. And so I think maybe the better way to phrase this is like your journey gets easier when you just become your own friend. Like you become your own sister, your own mom, whatever. Like that's how you would treat them the same. You would treat yourself the same way that you would treat them. All right. Next one is you will never accomplish a goal by focusing on the goal, right? Focus on being consistent at the small daily actions, okay? There's nothing wrong with having an overarching goal. There's nothing wrong with being like, I want to lose 30 pounds, right? Or I want to work out consistently. There's nothing wrong with those overarching goals, but it's not thinking about and focusing on that goal of I want to lose 30 pounds, I want to lose 30 pounds, I want to lose 30 pounds, right? It's focusing on literally the small daily actions. And I know some of you are listening to this and be like, I know this, Brie, I know. Something else I want you to switch your mindset on is if you are super focused on like the goal and you're having a hard time switching off, focus on the next 24 hours every single day. I just want you to focus on the 24-hour timeline. Focus on the 24-hour goal. The 24-hour goal is, you hit your nutrition, you hit your protein, you hit your water goal, you go for your workout, or maybe it's a rest day. You rest or you go for a walk. Focus on the daily 24-hour timeline. But anyone who's been successful, whether that's in business or in fitness or anything in their life, they break it down into smaller pieces, right? They see, okay, if my overarching goal is I want to do X, Y, Z, how can I break this up into smaller? And if you want to, you could start with breaking up the actions into smaller things like monthly goals, right? Okay, I want to work out 4 times a week, every single week for this month. Okay, that's a great goal that you've broken down. Now let's go to the week. Okay, I want to make sure that I work out 4 times this week. Perfect. How can you make sure that that happens? And so as you can see, as we're breaking down, we're slowly getting down to the actions that's going to require that. Okay, I've got to set my workout clothes. I have to go in the morning because of my job. You know what? I have to actually work on the weekends because it's really difficult for me to work out during the week. So I'm going to work out 2 times during the week and actually 2 times on the weekends. But I always say to people, remember, you can't have a year without months and a month without weeks and weeks without days and days without hours and hours without minutes and minutes without seconds, right? Just get smaller and smaller. So the more you can break things down and focus on just those small actions and build those up over time, you don't have to think about the goal. You'll just end up, that's a byproduct of doing the daily small tasks and actions that you want for that goal. Okay, this next one hits a little home for me specifically. And I think it took a while for me to find this balance, but once I did, it was really, really helpful towards my goals. So being honest with yourself and being abusive to yourself are 2 different things. One pushes you forward while the other holds you back. So there's being honest with yourself and there's being abusive. And I think some of you guys are just like, well, I'm just being honest, like about my efforts, blah, blah, blah. When you're low key verbally abusing yourself on the inside, right? You're telling yourself that you're a failure. You're telling yourself that you can't do it. You're maybe even we go the other direction of just like, oh, you're punishing yourself, right? There's a difference between being honest about your efforts and being honest about where you struggle. That's actually going to be helpful versus you abusing yourself. And that actually ends up holding you back and pushing you farther from your goals because then you just never have a win. Here's the thing about when you're honest with yourself, you actually can dig down into what really the issue is. When you're just yelling at yourself and punishing yourself, you're just throwing a Band-Aid on something for a little bit until the Band-Aid gets worn and used for a long time, and then it falls off in the shower. You know what I mean? And then you're still dealing with the same issues that you've always dealt with. You punishing yourself and talking negatively about yourself is not going to help you in the end achieve the goal that you're wanting. So next time you have negative self-talk about yourself, I want you to challenge yourself and saying, is this pushing me towards my goal or is this holding me back from my goal? And I know a lot of times we think, well, if I'm just hard on myself, it'll motivate me. Like, no. No, when have you ever, think about, I know I use all these analogies, think of other people, but think about your best friend, think about your kids. If your kid was struggling in school, would you say the same things to them as you say to yourself? No, because if you told them wow, you're a failure. Wow, you can never be consistent in this. Wow, you suck at doing your homework. That would do nothing but discourage your kids. And it's the same for you, but for some reason, and I've been there. I'm not trying to like blame anyone and like make you feel like, oh, you're so stupid or whatever. Like I've been there, but it's just weird how we think that that's going to have the opposite effect when we never would treat anyone else that way. We never say that kind of stuff to our best friend. Now, do we have honest conversations with our best friend of saying, hey, Susie, we've been talking about this guy over and over, and he repeatedly keeps doing this stuff to you, and you're still staying with him, and having those honest, thought-provoking conversations, right? You don't come to your best friend and say, well, you're stupid, you're this, you're that. No, you provide conversation to a best friend, and you don't maybe you come to them with maybe some answers, but it's about asking those questions and helping them to come to the conclusions, right? And encouraging them to think through who they're dating or who they're with or the things that they're doing, right? And you need to do the same for yourself. Yelling and putting down a friend who's dating a guy that's not good for her is just going to want to make her date the guy more, right? It's coming to her and showing her, hey, he's done XYZ. He's done this. He's doing, is this kind of the type of character that you want in a lifelong partner? Those things, that type of conversation is way more life-changing than yelling or screaming or just being mean or rude to a friend about maybe a guy that she's dating. All right. And the last one here is no one ever grew from their comfort zone. If you want to grow and change, get ready to challenge your discomfort. Okay. You've probably heard this one before, but it's a great reminder, like when it comes to your fitness journey, and again, all fitness stuff applies to so much life stuff. When it comes to your fitness journey, you're going to have to make decisions that you don't want to make. There are trade-offs that you're going to have to make that you don't want to make. And, I think about fitness and what people struggle with the most. And I know the thing that people probably struggle with the most is food. There are definitely people who struggle with working out and getting to do a workout and going and being consistent with that 100%. Like I have clients that do struggle with being consistent with that. But I think the biggest one that people struggle with is food, because we're okay with being uncomfortable for an hour, right? 30 minutes to an hour roughly is what a workout is, right? But when it comes to being uncomfortable all day, and I'm not saying uncomfortable like you need to be starving or you need to be like depriving yourself of all these things. Like, no, I'm not saying like that uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable to challenge, okay, you know what? Am I eating because I'm bored or am I eating because I'm hungry? Am I, focusing on protein? Do I actually want this? Like, can I find the balance in, enjoying sweets, but then also prioritizing my fruits and veggies? Like food is almost like 24-hour thing, right? And so you're having more instances of being uncomfortable throughout the day when it comes to your nutrition. You're constantly being challenged, right? Especially if you're someone who's just starting to prioritize that. You're coming from a completely different lifestyle of food. And so I believe also where people quit is they put themselves in a little bit too much discomfort. A lot of people have this all or nothing mindset, right? It's either I do something or I do absolutely nothing. It's either I'm absolutely miserable and uncomfortable, so I make the most amount of progress. I'm going to see progress now, or I don't do anything and I'm in the absolute comfort of my own home, sitting on the couch, doing whatever I want, right? It's one or the other. But that's where I think it causes people to quit. You need just enough not stress, maybe that's a bad word, just enough push to cause adaptation, but not so much push that it discourages you and you quit. I don't know if anyone knows wine. Me and Sage, we love our wine and we love going to Napa. And so if you know anything about growing grapes, then this won't come news to you. But if you don't, then this is an interesting analogy that when they make wine, they purposely put the vine under just the right amount of stress, because if they put it under just the right amount of stress, they'll get the flavors and the sugars and the fruits and the things produced that they want, versus they don't put it under enough stress. And so it makes the vine produce better and work a little bit harder, but you don't want to work too hard, because if it works too hard, then you kill the vine. And so that's what progress and progression is all about. It's about pushing yourself just enough to challenge yourself, but not so much that you quit. That's why I take this baby step approach with a lot of people is, I have some clients who are like, hey, I'm all in. Let's go for it. Let's do all the things. Awesome. I'm so happy for that. I have some clients who need to take it a step at a time. We'll start out with just tracking calories. We don't even worry about protein. And once they get calories under their belt and they're consistent with calories, awesome. Let's throw in protein. If we need even baby step it more, let's just focus on a protein heavy breakfast. And then we'll worry about calories for the rest of the day, because different people have different levels of tolerating stress or adaptation, or that push or discomfort, I guess, for the best word for this conversation is people have a certain level of discomfort that they can tolerate, and everyone's a little bit different. And so it's not that you're going to be uncomfortable if you're making progress in some way or form, but make sure, I guess this is another point we're kind of adding to this, make sure you're not pushing so much discomfort that it causes you to quit. Right. And that's kind of when we go back to point one that I talked about on here, like taking a step back, you're getting to a point of discomfort that you need to take a step back on, because if you don't take a step back, you're going to kill the vine, right? You're not going to produce any fruit. Okay. So let's take a step back. And so there's this level of discomfort that you can experience until you need to take a step back. You pull back the rubber band, you take a little bit less stress off, and then now you can produce fruit, and you're fruit growing. I'm trying to make an analogy with a vine, but it's not working. But you're able to produce fruits, right? So we want just enough discomfort that challenges you to grow. And wherever that is, there's no shame in that. Again, I think we all resort to this all or nothing mindset. Like, hey, I need to track my calories. I need to track protein. I need to eat a vegetable. I need to eat a fruit. I need to train 4 times a week. Start somewhere. If you really struggle with being consistent when it comes to the gym, start there. If you struggle with the nutrition things, start there. If you have all of the things in order, you're doing all the things, but you're adding something new. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm adding a fiber goal. Awesome. Start small. Start with just your breakfast, throwing in some raspberries. Raspberries are a cheat code for fiber, if you didn't know. So much fiber for a serving of raspberries. Start there. This applies to and wherever you are in your fitness journey, whether you're a beginner, you're advanced, there's this level of discomfort that you have to balance out. There's also, and this honestly, this point plays into a lot of things. There is also point 4 when I was talking about, there's the difference between being honest yourself versus being abusive. There's some times where you keep avoiding all the discomfort, you push off the discomfort. It's like kind of honest conversation of, look, we've got to do something. We've got to start somewhere. And we need to understand that it's not going to be comfortable. Working out in the morning sucks. But also, so does going with the work crowd at 6 o'clock. Both of them suck. Which one sucks less? Which one is going to be less uncomfortable at the end of the day? Let's pick that one. So anyways, I could chat about all of these points all day long. I hope this episode was helpful. As always, at the end of each episode, I say, if you have any feedback, if anything hit home, if anything really, really resonated with you, shoot me a DM. I always love to hear it. As always, a free way to support the show: screenshot, share your stories, and tag me. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Damn Strong Podcast. Show me some love by leaving a review and sharing a screenshot of this episode on your Instagram stories. Until next time, stay strong.